Hello, welcome back to more Let's Play Yomawari Midnight Shadows. Alright, so this is going to be the first bonus episode. Obviously, this is at the end of the game. I want to go ahead and spend this episode, though, just like discussing what I think about the plot of the game, because it was fairly confusing to me. So I did a little bit of research, and first of all, about the ending, the choice that you make talking to the spider demon guy, that doesn't matter because whether you press yes or no, you still get the same thing. And then when it gets down to the point where you have to choose whether yes or no you want to let go of her arm kind of thing, if you choose not to, it will re-prompt you with the same question until you're forced to say yes. So there is no alternate ending as far as that goes, and obviously, like, the only other alternate ending that isn't a real ending would be if you decided to hang yourself using the noose. But now I'm going to go into detail about, like, what I believe the plot was. I mean, I've done a little bit of research into it, and, like, there's a few things here and there from what I was reading that made a lot of sense, I guess. But there's other things here and there that didn't quite make sense to me. So, first off, one of the questions I had was whether or not Yu was alive for the fireworks show. And I believe I'm wanting to say she was already dead at that point. The tutorial actually happened. She went to go bury her dog, and then, of course, she wanted Chaco to leave because she had planned on committing suicide. So she unleashes him, and he doesn't want to go, obviously. He knows what's up. But we get the pebble, and she throws the pebble across the bridge because she knows Chaco will run after it. But, if you remember, there is the voice that she keeps referencing to, like, through her notes. Oh, not that one. Through her notes, we can see, like, where is it? Scribble note, messy hand, give it hands, like, no, that's paper scraps, okay. I hope that I get to see the fireworks with Haru again next summer. I'm going to see Haru. That's what it says. Okay. I believe this first note happened before she died. Or right after she died. Not before. These notes were all written after she had died. Basically, she gets up to the top of the mountain with the idea that she is going to commit suicide. But once she gets across, she was having second thoughts because she wanted to go see the fireworks show with Haru because she promised. Well, once she gets up there, if you remember correctly, like, she throws the rock across there, and then out of nowhere, the bridge just falls, forcing Chaco to, like, go do whatever. And then she keeps referencing that someone or something is following her, I have to run, you know, what is this voice? And then at the beginning of the game, after they do see the fireworks, they hear the voice again, right? Well, that voice was obviously the spider demon thing, being evil and such. And if you remember correctly, we had to go through the tutorial again as Haru when we got to the grave. So what I'm thinking is the tutorial was ran by the spider demon, meaning she did not willfully commit suicide. She wanted to leave, but the spider demon, you know, broke down the bridge. It made it seem like the only thing she could do at that point was suicide. So I don't think it was suicide as much as it was just her being killed by the spider demon. It made her hang herself. So, moving on, so how did she end up seeing Haru at the fireworks the next day? Or later that night, or whichever it was. Well, the way that I see it, spirits can only come out at night, which the fireworks show would have happened during the evening, right? So I'm thinking what happened was it was nightfall, so Haru would have been able to see the spirits because spirits are allowed to roam at that point. What isn't explained by that is the fact that Haru is unable to see you later on when they finally meet up, and Yu leaves the note saying, "I think I've died, I'm going to the mountain to figure it out," kind of thing. So, I'm not exactly sure how to explain that one, other than the fact that the whole game is based on them being tied together because of their friendship being so close. This is supported by the fact that in Japan, the red strings that we had to sever during the Spider Demon battle are called Strings of Fate in the Japanese version. Strings of Fate is like something that attaches to people indefinitely, which is where Mr. Kotowari comes in, because Kotowari means to reject. So basically his scissors, like cutting the strings of fate, is like his main goal, just because he's trying to, like, you died, but she's still very closely connected to Haru, but Haru is still alive. So what I'm gathering is Kotowari was not trying to kill us the entire game. What he was attempting to do was sever our tie with you, which either A, meant that I had to die and go with her, or in the case of the ending of the game after we helped him at his shrine by cleaning it up, instead of killing us, he decided to sever our arm, which is the same one at the beginning of the game that we had to use to guide Haru out of the woods, if you remember correctly. Like, there was a point where it made us grab onto her and then cross that bridge. It was the same arm that Haru ended up having cut off at the end of the game. So that was like the one remaining tie that we had because we had touched a spirit. So, like, he ended up just cutting off that arm because it was the last major connection that we had with you before she was taken over by the spider demon and, you know, turned malevolent, tried to kill us and all that kind of stuff. So then, after all that happened, I don't think Haru was able to actually see you at the end of the game. Like, you helped us down the mountain, and then we had to choose to leave her, but I'm wanting to say either A, we did see her, because we were still, like, in limbo, essentially. Like, she had almost bled to death, so we were either almost dead or going to move on and go on with life. So we were able to see her for that last minute and, like, say our goodbyes. But according to the text, she was like, "I was never able to say goodbye. I'm sorry, yada yada." So I'm wanting to say that Haru did not see you during that scene. But, so essentially what I'm thinking is, like, we were able to see her because at the beginning of the game, she wasn't controlled by the spider demon, and she was just a nice spirit, and the connection was just so strong that they were able to do the last thing that she wanted to do together, which was go see the fireworks. And then the spider demon, at the beginning of the game, whenever you go off alone to check out the voice, which is the spider demon, then the spider demon claimed her soul, essentially. Or at least turned her malevolent whenever it kidnapped her. And so, like, another thing that I read was, okay, so why was it implying, like, she was almost alive throughout the game? Because she was waking up in different areas, etc. The thing that explains that is, she's struggling to keep that connection with Haru throughout the game. But obviously, it's harder to do the longer that she is dead, right? So slowly the spider demon is trying to take over her, and then it finally wins out when she goes back to the mountain because that's where the spider demon is, and it has like the strongest influence around there. So when she willfully went back to the mountain, she just lost it, and then the spider demon took over. But there were moments where she would like lose consciousness and stuff, and I think that was her turning malevolent. And like the malevolent spirits had no idea where they were, how they got there, kind of thing, because they are mindless. But since she was struggling with that, with the spider demon's influence, what ended up happening was like she would have control of herself, but then the spider demon was like, it would gain control for a select amount of time, take her to a new area where there was another malevolent spirit, you know, like a source of malevolent spirits. Like the library had the mirror, and there were all kinds of ghosts and spirits there. And then it took us to the mansion area, and that one had a strong malevolent spirit there. And so, like, it was taking us to each of those areas until finally we just went to the mansion of our own free will, or not mansion, the mountain of our own free will, and it just took over us completely. So, and then once we defeated the spirit, we severed that and, like, freed her soul, almost. And she was able to help us down the mountain, but she had to stay on the mountain. She couldn't move beyond there because she was dead, it was time for her to move on, etc. Like, she knew she had to go, kind of thing. And then, of course, our hand was cut off, so that had completely severed the tie. Like, yeah, we'll remember her, but that kind of, like, completely, you know, the tie is broken, we know we can move on, kind of thing. So, that explains that much. The only remaining question I had was what was up with the bit where it was doing like the mini flashbacks and it showed us like being carried down the mountain by you beforehand, which that would imply then that they had ran into the spider demon beforehand. And I'm not exactly sure what that means. Like, I might go ahead and I don't think any of that was like explained on in any of like the trailers or anything, but I could go like look at the website to see if maybe they had ran into the spider demon before and that she, you know, it was a traumatic experience, so she just blocked it out, kind of thing. Or like what happened there, because she ends up blaming herself over Yu's death, which could end up meaning either A, she committed suicide because Haru was leaving, or B, Yu ended up dying to the spider demon before the events of this game, but that wouldn't make sense. So it would only make sense that the spider demon is what is something that they encountered before the events of the game, and like it almost had a vendetta out against them, but that wouldn't explain why they would go back to that same mountain again. In fact, I guess Yu never makes the comment that she had never been in that area before. It was Haru who makes the comment that none of that area looked familiar, which I guess would make sense if she mentally blocked it out. If she blocked out that memory, then of course none of that would look familiar. But, yeah, it's a confusing ending. Or a confusing plot in general. It takes a little bit to think about. Well, anyway, so that basically sums up my ideas of what the plot was. Basically, it was just a story of, you know, having to move on after the death of a friend. You know, accepting it and then moving forth, and then I kind of like how it made you sacrifice something just like in the first game. Like in the first game, you obviously had to sacrifice your eye in order to save your sister. Whereas in this game, you sacrificed your arm in order to... Well, I guess... I'm not sure if you sacrificed your arm necessarily to save you, but you did end up sacrificing your arm in order to escape that, and that causes you to end up turning nice for a little bit, at least. Enough to actually take you down the mountain. So you did end up sacrificing something for the sake of the other person, in a sense. But yeah, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed the game. It was a lot more story driven and a lot darker in the sense of plot compared to the first game, and I do hope that they come out with a third game, but like I said, please no dead dogs. And I don't know if it's just because of how Japanese plots are always kind of open-ended. That's always been their style. They don't really ever, like, truly give... You know, they like to have those open-ended endings, so... I don't know if it's just because of that, or, like, maybe some translation errors, you know, not knowing the culture completely kind of thing. Like, you didn't grow up, you know, knowing about these kind of, you know, different ideologies and stuff of how they you know, like the strings of fate and all that. Like, that's symbolic to the Japanese, but it wouldn't be as symbolic to, like, a regular American person, if that makes sense. Like, so, it could just be a bunch of those things kind of wrapped together that led to the story being kind of confusing. Like, maybe they wanted it to be more open-ended, or maybe it was supposed to have a very, like, obvious ending, but because of, like, changing the localization over to America, and then, you know, we don't have the same kind of customs, like, there was just a loss of meaning somewhere, which could very well have happened. But, you know, they might be able to fix that in a third game and, like, have a more conclusive ending, or, you know, it is possible that they wanted it to be open-ended, and then, in which case, either way, it was still a really good game. I did enjoy the fact that the mechanics were more patted down from the first game. Like, there was a reason to tiptoe, there was a reason for different items, like the planes or the trash bag. And that one's a useful one. We didn't collect all the items because obviously there's the pet food that we could still get. And I'm pretty sure there's one more item that we haven't collected that's a usable. Can't remember which one it is, but it's somewhere. But yeah, other than that, like, the game was really well made. And I'm surprised that it came out so soon compared to the first game. Like, I'm wanting to say Yomawari 1 came out last year, so it's only been 1 year, and they already made another of equal, if not better, quality than the first game. Like, the first game was great plot-wise. Well, not plot-wise, but, like, gameplay-wise. Like, the story of it was well enough for what it was. But, this one definitely was a lot more story-driven. And, yeah, just mechanics were good, the graphics were good. There was still a little bit of tearing, but this is a rather new game, so it's not been patched yet or anything like that. Although I'm wanting to say this did release in Japan a little bit ago, like a few months maybe. So, you know, it could just be that my monitor's acting up or something. But yeah, overall, very good game, and I'm very much happy to go ahead and get into collecting all the extra collectibles. We got a lot to get into. Just like with the first game, there's little like events that you can go see. Like I think Hanako returns in this one. She's hidden over in Old Town, I think. Which I did see, by the way, that oh, where's it at? Nearby Town. Nearby Town is in fact the town from the first game, and from what I've heard, we can actually run into the protagonist from the first game. I don't think she had a name, but the little girl that we played as in the first game is definitely over in that town. You can find her in like 5 different areas, which is one of the events that we have to do in order to collect all the items. So that should be something that we can very much look into. That was a comment I'm pretty sure I made earlier on in the series, was like I would really have liked to have seen the protagonist. So when we go over to Nearby Town, I'm definitely gonna have to like see if we can stop by her house or see if she's there, kind of thing. Like maybe we can even go over there and like, you know, visit her house, see all the things that we collected in the first game, kind of thing. That might be an interesting thing to do. Or see, what I was thinking from the ending, like in the journal, it said she moved to a new town and made a new friend. I was almost very curious to see if like that new friend was the protagonist from the first game or her sister, kind of thing, and that the town that she moved over to was just Nearby Town. So, well, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it for this episode. I just wanted to like discuss my thoughts on the plot and just the game in general. So thank you all for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe. Go ahead and put your thoughts on what you thought the plot was. Some of those questions, like, you know, was she alive at the fireworks? You know, why was she able to see her at the fireworks and not at the point where they actually met up? You know, just if you have any kind of questions, go ahead and just post it in the comments, or if you have your own ideas, maybe we can come up with a conclusive overall idea of what the plot is, and then I might do an update video with the comments that you guys have made, if it changes my mind on what the plot is or anything related to that. Of course, if there's like an official plot guide that releases, which I doubt will happen, but if there is one, then I'll update this and describe what the plot actually is. But anyway, thank you, and I'll see you all in the next episode, where we will start our lovely journey into finding all of the collectible items. So, see you all then.